Hello, everyone. I have no voice, so Andrew, which is why I didn't say hello to any of you. I'm going to call our Plan Commission meeting to order, and if there's no objection from the Plan Commissioners, Mr. Breyer is going to run our meeting today. Okay. I will still be able to vote. I just won't run our agenda items.
All right, so I hereby call the Monday, February 10th Plan Commission meeting to order. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes, Plan Commission minutes of January 13th, 2025. Are there any comments? If none, I take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Lampy, second Krieger. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, on to business. First item, review and take action, 204 North First Street, Certified Survey Map, CSM review. Brian?
Okay, we have a proposal for one lot CSM to prepare, what is it, the First Street parking lot for future development. The CSM reserves the right for the city to create several easements in the future when needed, and when the property is transferred to new ownership. The property is also under the airport protection elevation requirements of 968 feet. The note to that has been added to the CSM. And the right of way on First Street is sufficient, so the options are as normal, deny, approve, or approve with conditions.
All right, and we have Mason Becker here with us this evening. Mason, do you want to give a little bit of background on this one as well?
Yeah, as I'm sure commission members are aware, that the concept of potentially developing part of the North First Street parking lot has been talked about by the city for some time. Last year, we had a developer bring forward a potential proposal. That developer is not moving forward, but we do currently have a signed pre-development agreement with Intrepid Investments, looking at a potential condo development and part of this North First Street parking lot. As you may also recall, and as Brian noted last year, we did vacate the stub portion of the Jones Street right away. Essentially, this CSM is kind of cleaning up and connecting that vacated portion of the right of way to the existing parcel.
All right, thank you. Are there any comments from commissioners?
Andrew.
Mr. Blanky?
So I do have one minor concern. I know that we're looking to develop the area that basically is lots 1 through 4 and 5, 6, and 7. The intention was to retain those as parking. By splitting that into 3 separate lots, it gives the implication and the future possibility to develop those as well. And downtown parking's at a premium. I would rather that those 3 remain as one single lot to make it at least a more involved process in the future, should anyone decide to attempt to develop that area.
That's a great question and comment. We did have some internal discussions about if that southern portion of the lot should be split off and perhaps it should be a 2-lot CSM. Frankly, we kind of went back and forth on that. And while we do have the pre-development agreement with Intrepid Investments right now, they haven't brought forward like a formal site plan yet. So we weren't sure that right now splitting off that southern portion was wise, given we don't have like a signed development agreement that lays out financial terms and things like that. So if that development moves forward, we would be bringing forward another CSM at a later date.
Right, but what I'm saying is our intention was to develop the area between Jones and Madison Street.
Correct.
And that the area between Madison and the existing building along Main Street would not be developed. So I don't necessarily see why we would split that area then into 3 separate lots.
That's not being split. That's actually it was previously platted, those lots. And the
Okay.
CSM is combining all of those previous lots and the Jones Street right away into one big CSM lot right now. And then as Mason said, when the development comes forward, we'll know exactly where they want to put that break and we'll subdivide the CSM into 2 lots at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
So
I
I'm
appreciate
misunderstanding the intent of this. This is not taking what was 1 and dividing it into 7. This is simply cleaning up what is already there.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. I appreciate
Okay.
Brian clarifying that. It's
Thank you.
So then, does that extend to the south with like lots 8, 9, 10 until you get up to the Masonic Temple building?
It's everything in that red outline on the last, I believe it's the last map in that section.
So I kind of see where Brad was coming from. I mean, just like showing it bundled into a new CSM going as far south as it does would probably give a potential developer the impression that we are open to developing that far south.
So anytime that we would entertain an offer from a developer, there are like 4 different meetings that'll have to go through. Everyone in this room knows that we have no desirability at this time to develop south of Madison Street for the reasons you're both identifying. So rather than proactively splitting, like what if they want to stop at what was formerly Lot 3? That was the reason why we didn't want to arbitrarily set a southernmost point. So until we have an actual agreement in front of us, our preference is just to keep it as one lot. And then knowing that when a development agreement or a site plan comes before this body and finance and council, that we all have the stopgap then if we need it, which in my time we won't. But if we need it to go, no, we're not developing south of Madison Street. I think if we were to pick a line now, we would just be picking one. Does that make sense? So let's see what project comes up. And then we can make an adjustment at that time. We're not going to develop south of Madison Street. You know that, I know that.
I'm very cognizant of that. I know there's been a lot of commentary about, we don't want to give up a lot of parking. So I'm very cognizant of the fact that we want to preserve some parking in the North First Street parking lot. I would also remind folks that, again, this is all timing out well with the fire department leaving for their new home. And the police squads will more than likely be moving into the current fire station bays. That will open up more parking north of City Hall here. I think a lot of city employees will be able to park in that lot to the north of here. So that'll open up additional public parking south of City Hall.
I was going to mention the same thing. And Zach, if you want to include that in your article, I would be most appreciated because there's this misconception that we're robbing this area of parking. When in actuality, the sequencing was intentional. The fire department's going to leave in April or May, probably more like May. The squads will then move inside and the entire back parking lot is open. And we are actually getting more spots in the back than what we would potentially be taking in the front.
That's
And I
correct.
think that's just really important for people to know.
Correct. Yeah, so there's no intention to develop south of Madison Street, just to reiterate that.
Any other comments? Questions? If none, I take a motion.
Move approval without conditions.
I can second.
Krieger, second.
That was the
McFarland.
quietest second on the planet.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, next on the agenda, review and take action. W4510 Ebenezer Drive Extraterritorial Certified Survey Map, CSM review. Brian?
Yes, we have a proposal for a 2-lot certified survey map in the city's extraterritorial jurisdiction. It's located on Ebenezer Drive. It is located in the airport protection zone with a height of 968 above sea level, and that has been added to the CSM. The right-of-way requirements from the comp plan for Ebenezer Drive are 100-foot right-of-way, so that'd be 50 feet from center. That has also been dedicated on the CSM. If you notice also in there, there's a letter from the county. They are requesting that lot 2 of this CSM be reduced to 1 acre to meet their farmland preservation requirements. So that would be one of the conditions of approval.
Anything from commissioners? Hearing none, I take a motion.
Make a motion to approve with the identified conditions.
Second,
Motion Blanky, second Lampy. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Next up, 3C, review and take action 510 South Second Street, approval to purchase property for Health Department. Carol, I'll turn it over to you on this one.
Sure. So I'm asking your consideration in moving forward with purchasing the lot at 510 South Second Street. It's currently a vacant lot and has been for a number of years. The lot is adjacent to the Public Health Department parking lot. And we would use the lot for storage, but also for some of our services, drive-through car check services, immunization clinics. One thing that I didn't put on the memo, but I just thought of, we often are working with food trucks that are setting up, getting their food truck in order, and we don't have an indoor space to work with that owner of a food truck or a mobile food cart. So there are really multiple services and programs that would utilize this space for drive-through capacity as well as storage. And there are multiple maps attached to the item.
Melissa?
Okay, so the backside of that is obviously South Second Street, which is a residential lot or residential housing surrounding that lot. What are you envisioning this lot to look like if it's purchased and developed for city use?
Great question. And I just got the drawing from the assistant engineer. Would you be able to pull that up?
Do you have it on your computer? You might be able to plug in and get control that
Oh,
way.
I might be able
It
to.
might be a little slicker.
Okay, let me see what I can do here. Okay. Just a minute. Oh,
Wait, let me switch back.
so you can see the health department parking lot. That would be part of the proposal to increase parking capacity. We realize the support of the senior center parking in our parking lot. So Andrew and Nathan talked about increasing our parking capacity as we look at the space, and then that lot would be used for a building. Where the slanted lines are would be the drive-through area. So there'd be a garage door on both the west and the east part of where the slants are on that lot. And then where there's just the square and no fill-in would be storage for the health department. And then there would be green space around that building.
So the slanted hatched area is part of the building, but there would be kind of a garage door on either end, so cars could really seamlessly go from one end to the other and be enclosed from the elements. Is that correct? Okay.
Right, because right now we don't have that, and many of our programs, especially, I think about our car seat program, we are doing car seat installations almost daily, and we do them in all weather, and it sometimes there's a huge safety issue. Families come with other children. They're out in our parking lot in rain or snow. We just don't have a good space for that and that program, but other programs as well. So to have an enclosed space where a car or a vehicle can pull in and we can provide that service would be really valuable to the community.
So I recognize all that and I
Mhm.
understand the need. What are the neighbors on either side of this lot? Have they spoken? Do they have an opinion on this? Have they been consulted?
They've been invited. They were invited to this meeting.
So
And-
do you want to talk about these neighbors? Like these are
They-
largely
right.
rental properties.
All of the properties on that side of Second Street are rentals.
Just meaning it's a little bit more difficult to engage them.
And I remember what the house looked like that was on
Yeah,
this
the
lot
greenhouse.
many, many years
Yeah,
ago.
right,
Yes.
right.
So Carol, can you remind the group what you're asking for today in particular?
So really asking for a approval for the mayor to engage with the property owner to have some discussion about purchasing this lot for the use that I've described. So really just starting that conversation.
We have spoken preliminarily with the owner to make sure that this wouldn't be the first time that they would see their property on a meeting agenda. And he stated to us that he has no immediate intention on redeveloping the property. He had thoughts of it originally, but those have kind of gone by the wayside. I think our team shared similar concerns to what you're describing, Ms. Lampy. And I think we're split as an internal team. I think I was convinced just by looking a little bit beyond that immediate block. Pretty quickly to the north, you're gonna find parcels like this church, the ESC,
Which is a big asphalt parking lot,
Yep.
essentially, yes.
some storage buildings for the former 7-Up site. But yeah, oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Blanky.
So a few things. One, I echoing Commissioner Lampy's concerns, but am I correct? And this is one of the items identified in the space needs analysis that was presented to the council on September 17th of 2024.
So that plan put an addition onto our building that would go on, drive onto this space. And it was not fully enclosed. Part of it was budget reasons. And then it would not have allowed for additional parking and ease through that an enclosed area to do the work that we need to do. It would not have been big enough to have a vehicle fully enclosed in away from the elements, essentially.
So
I'm speaking more to the concept in general of acquiring this property and expanding the health department. That was identified in that
yeah,
analysis, correct?
Yes, it was.
Yes,
Yeah, the
And
need.
yeah.
And at this time, the council has taken no action on that space needs analysis. Is that correct?
Yeah, we'll be bringing it back to Finance Committee. I know where you're going, so if I may jump the gun a little. The reason it's before us is Carol has American or what are they called for you?
ARPA.
American Rescue Plan Act funds that need to be expended by a certain period of time. That got extended, correct?
Right.
But that is what precipitated this particular one ahead of the bigger picture originally.
I'm just not comfortable approving, even in a conceptual manner, to start pursuing land purchase before the full council has said that's the direction that we want to go. Because we could waste time, resources, or even if we get to a point where we purchase this and then the council says no, now the city owns a plot of land in the middle of a residential neighborhood, and it's extremely difficult once a government entity owns land to find a way to get rid of said land.
Sure. So when I understand where you're coming from, I wouldn't be able to offer anything additional. Other than that, it was getting moved forward more quickly because the funds were going to end at the end of the year. And then they extended that like in the 11th hour, and we had begun this process. The only thing that I can add is that my comfortability would come from that it's a completely separate pot of money. So it wouldn't be a part of our bigger borrowing picture about that larger plan. And then obviously we can't buy land unless the council approves it. So the planning commission decides if it's if the city should purchase or sell land. The finance committee tells me if I can negotiate, and then we would come back at that point. So I hear you though, just giving you the inside thought.
Others?
Yeah, I just have one clarifying question. So I think that what is before us is we're being asked to make a recommendation whether to proceed with exploring a land purchase. I saw in the packet, the language used was and proceed to construction, which I think is another thing altogether. So I want to make sure that I have clarity that we're being asked today to make a recommendation to the council that would be consistent with needs that they have not adopted yet, but consistent with the needs that have been presented to them for consideration. And what we would be doing today would be recommending that they consider moving forward with land acquisition, but making no recommendation at this time about proceeding to construction. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, that helps me. Thank you.
You guys by statute tell us how to use city-owned land, like to buy it or sell it. Finance committee tells me how to negotiate and what to negotiate to. Council would approve the purchase. And you all, actually, again.
And then
Finance
if,
again.
and then if at a future date, if the city generally, and the plan commission specifically, if we wanted to recommend construction with the plan being that the construction also is ARPA funded, that we'd have to be pretty sharp on our timelines there again, right?
Finance committee would say that level. And how long is your money extended?
Until the end of this year.
Okay.
So we had started this conversation last year, but things, there, I looked at other options as well on this block and things got slowed and stalled.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Mr. Zerbis, did you have something?
Yes, I just want to also add that in addition to purchasing the land, this project would require a plan amendment, a rezoning, a certified survey map to combine all three of those parcels into one parcel, and then a conditional use permit to actually build the structure. So there's a lot of other steps that have to happen to make this be completed by Carol's deadline.
Are there any
One
other?
more.
Go ahead.
Is Carol's deadline to allocate the money by a date, or to encumber the money by a date, or to expend the money by a date? Do you know the answer to that question?
Expend.
Expend the money by the end of the year.
It's as much of a moving target as all ARPA money expenditures have been, just to put that disclaimer on it. They've moved that target a few times. And normally they move it like one day before it's supposed to be done.
Right. Mhm.
So any motion, I would like for it to be very narrow in scope, as Commissioner Krieger pointed out. That this is what we're doing, and I'm,
How about a motion to pursue the purchase of this parcel pending finance committee's approval for the identified purpose? Pursue a purchase for the identified purpose. I'm open to revision on
I'm trying to think of
Sure.
a way.
that. I'll stop staring at you. Andrew's really failing as a chairperson. It's not fashioning up any motions. That's why I kicked you out of my chair.
I'll offer that motion.
Yeah.
To recommend the pursuing exploration of the land purchase.
Motion Krieger. Is there a second?
I can second.
Second McFarland. Any discussion?
Yes,
Commissioner Blanky?
would you be amenable to altering that to pursue terms of purchase? Because that implies that there's still other steps involved,
By me.
so that would need to be.
We're both agreeing to amend
Okay.
it. Yep. Were you agreeing to amend it? Yeah, I'm good with that as a seconder.
All right. Any further discussion on the amended version of the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, 3D, initial review and set public hearing date, 1220 Wilbur Street Comprehensive Plan Amendment. Brian?
Yeah, we have a proposal from Habitat for Humanity to amend the comprehensive plan, in particular the future land use designation for two parcels on their campus from institutional to two-family residential. These parcels are a part of the campus currently, but are no longer needed and they've been put up for sale. The proposal is to build 6 twin homes for a total of 12 units on these parcels. So what we were doing here would be scheduling the public hearing date for March 18th for the plan amendment.
And we do have some folks here from Habitat. Did you want to speak on this one, on the initial concept?
Good to go. I'm Chris Seatman. I'm one of the board members for Habitat.
Andrew Plickta, Director of Construction.
So we'll give you a quick overview. I think Brian summarized it pretty quickly. Total 6 twin homes, 3 on each lot, which is 12 total units, 6 on each lot. Currently zoned TR6. For current zoning, comp plan says institutional. I'm looking to get that comp plan changed. Home size, each unit will start at approximately 1,400 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths. And their starter homes, energy efficient construction, open concept, modern amenities and durable materials. I've got Andrew here. He can give you a quick brief background of who Habitat is. If you don't know, I know we've spoken to a handful of you already. And then kind of how the construction goes.
Sure. Hello. So I think a lot of people have a misconception about Habitat for Humanity, that it's like a handout. We just give our homes away to people. That's not quite how it works. It's a fairly thorough vetting process. It's, I wouldn't say restrictive, but to call it a handout is misleading. I would say it's more of a hand up, a helping hand. Most of our applicants don't make the cut right off the bat. They have to sustain employment for a certain duration of time, and they have to have credit that's sustained even to get into our queue of people. And then amongst that, I would say the vast majority of them are younger families, mothers with children. It's a fairly rigorous process. And I think before I was with Habitat, I didn't really quite comprehend what it was. And I think I kind of had the same opinion as most people do that aren't involved. It's not just a handout. It's not going on a game show and winning the lottery and getting a house for free. It's a very difficult but worthwhile process. So I think that translates very visibly into the pride in homeownership that we see. I've been blown away. Some of these people, just because you haven't had the opportunity to advance, doesn't mean they haven't tried. And that's the perfect representation of what we're all about. Is some of these people haven't had the best circumstance, but they're making the most of what we're providing to them. So I would say any hesitancy towards like, oh, we don't want our neighborhood to go to this perceived low-income housing situation. It's not really how it translates. It's very easy to see when you're on the inside. It's hard to see when you're not. But I'm a witness to that. So as far as the construction process goes, we certainly try to use as much by the way of efficient materials and cost reduction as possible to keep our costs down. Our people typically only qualify for a certain amount with a mortgage. So we have to do whatever we can by means of donations, volunteers, etc. Keep the cost of the home down. And most of our labor is provided by volunteers. So, but
Each homeowner has to put 200 hours
200 hours,
into their home
correct.
throughout the construction process to have a sense of, I built this as well.
And they carry a mortgage.
They do 30 years.
When I did my build day, it was for a young family whose son was disabled, like wheelchair bound. And it was really cool to like see their family story in the home. So
Yep.
It's been an excellent organization to work with, and I'm excited we're finally at this position. So glad to have you guys here. Good job, Mason.
Just a couple questions. Is there an expectation that the family who initially occupies or owns one of these homes owns it for a certain period of time?
We actually have not had a single owner since 1989 move out or sell their home.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And then this would be a situation too, because it technically is like a duplex, right? Where
Correct.
we're down the road, like if the roof needs to be replaced, that's just between the two people who now own these properties to figure out. Habitat for Humanity sells the parcels to the new homeowners and basically steps away.
So when it comes to our side-by-sides, our duplexes, we do have on occasion a condo association that gets involved in some of those things.
Got it.
It really depends on the plot layout and how it's laid out with the municipality.
Thank you.
Other questions, discussion?
Just one comment, Andrew. I think that this, for anyone who would say this doesn't fit with the neighborhood or anything like that, duplexes being directly across from an institutional use, I think is a great choice. That goes into that sort of layered approach where single family isn't necessarily directly next to institutional or commercial, industrial, that type of thing. And it fits in with the neighborhood concept. There's duplexes on Main Street directly abutting the parcel that we're in discussion on now. And you also have a rental property on Lisbon Street directly east of the other parcel. So I think that this fits great. I think it's a great plan and I look forward to seeing it come to fruition. And it just happens to be in District 5.
I was just thinking this parcel was one of the very first I thought of. I started. So it's crazy that it's happening right at the end. You want to make a motion to set the public hearing date?
I would like to make a motion to set the public hearing for March 18th.
Key, second Lampy. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
And wrapping up our business, 3E discussion only, concept review for Clark and Mary Street potential development. We have Bruce Loeb and Ruth Mack here this evening. Mason, were you going to give an overview on this one?
Yeah. Thank you. Right spot in the packet. Yeah, I'm personally very excited that these folks are here today, Bruce Loeb and Ruth Mack. I started with the city in November of 22, and we had a meeting to discuss this potential concept during my first month on the job here. And so that's just a reminder that I don't get to just snap my fingers and make developments happen. They take a long time and it's a lengthy planning process. And in talking with both Bruce and Ruth recently, they just wanted a chance to kind of gauge the temperature of the Plan Commission on this development that they've been working on for some time and just make sure that the Plan Commission's just generally comfortable with the concepts that they're laying out in this multifamily residential development proposal. I would note that this proposal would redevelop about 7 acres of farmland in the middle of the city. I don't think having farmland right in the middle of the southern portion of our city like that is a great land use. And we have also discussed the potential for expanding that development onto that kind of triangle portion of land adjacent to the stormwater retention pond. That is city owned. And we did get general approval from the Common Council last year to at least entertain incorporating that parcel of land into this development. There would be some steps that would still need to be completed. The land's currently zoned industrial, so there would have to be a rezoning. I believe it would also have to go through a plan amendment as well too. So before we take those additional steps and start talking about those items, we want to give you guys a chance to offer feedback on what Bruce and Ruth have kind of laid out here. They also have Michael Carlson from Raymaker here in case there's any questions about the architectural design of the development.
Thanks, Mason.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Blackie, start with you.
I feel like I'm taking up a lot of the commission's time.
That's what
tonight,
happens
but-
when I don't talk.
So obviously the council gave its blessing to that little triangular portion of land. They're open and amenable to developing this. And I think that a residential use fits this plot of land far better than an industrial use. Especially since on the other side of Mary Street, at one point, I believe that was slated for industrial development. Duplexes have been built on at least one side of the street. Is that Station Street there? The other way. I think you're on Clark Street, Mary Street.
Oh. Yeah, that's gonna take me a
Um,
minute to get to.
But again, apartments do fit better next to, you do have the We Energy site in that area.
Yes.
Apartments fit better next to industrial than single family. And also, so a little over a decade ago, I represented 9th District, which this fell in that area. And this was always an area of land that we really wanted to see developed. So 07 to 11, 15 years later, it's nice to see something moving forward on this. And I, for one, am very excited to see something happening here.
Glad to hear that.
Thank you. Ms. Lampy, Mr. Krieger, anything to add? Mayor?
How about thoughts of excitement? They spent a lot of time getting to this point, so I think they're really looking for feedback, even if it's, this looks good.
Sorry, how many units per building? I think I missed that.
It's 102 total units, 5 at 16, 1 at 22.
So sorry, I thought of one other question. So one of the concerns years ago was the possibility of contamination underneath the topsoil in that. And since you're here too, you can possibly speak to that. Are there any concerns that there's going to be a difficulty with whatever is underneath the topsoil?
Do either you want to speak to that or?
At this point, we have done checking on it, and we probably have to put piers in there. It's mostly fill from the area, from the brickyard that was there, and also the fill that was brought over from the retention pond that was built by the city. So the foundation would need piers underneath it to give it support.
So I guess, I think I appreciate that info, Bruce, and I guess another way of putting that is there's no concerns about environmental contamination in the soil. The suitability of the soil is not ideal, so they're gonna have to pursue some alternative methods of construction, similar to what the city ran into with the new fire station
The
somewhat.
city knew was gonna happen with the
Okay.
fire station and planned for.
Thank you for that clarification.
So it looked like on the street level view, I think it was Clark Street, does not appear to be fully improved. Curbs, gutters, standard street construction, or it's Mary Street then.
This is Mary Street and this is 2007, so I don't know, Andrew, do you know?
Mary Street is still kind of that rural cross section. It's more narrow. It's got kind of roadside ditches. Clark Street on the other side of the pond and this development area is also curbless.
So would this development trigger street upgrades? Would it need to?
Not necessarily, but we want to make sure it would dovetail with any current plans that we have for improving the roadway or adding curb there, but none currently.
Yeah, that looks a little rough.
Yeah, that's 2025. So
That's not great.
generally speaking, there's the 5-year capital plan that Public Works approves. There are inputs into that prioritization. And if there's development that occurs, it is something that can bubble up the discussion again.
Right.
So
Correct.
it's gonna naturally fall where it would fall on that list, but these types of things are the things that can make it fluctuate.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on this one? Any more feedback?
I think that's good, Bruce. Great.
All right. Well, thank you all.
Keep at it then.
Okay. We're taking that as a thumbs up, so
Yes.
thank you, we appreciate that.
All right. And last on our agenda, item 4, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion Lampy. Is there a second? Second Krieger. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thanks, everyone.